Hello and welcome to another Office Hours capsule. That's right. Capsule. A little small section, little snippet of my Office Hours live stream that I do on Thursdays at, now I'm blanking on the time. This is live, so live recording, at about 8 p.m. Eastern, which I think is 6 p.m. Pacific, I want to say. No, 5 p.m. Pacific. On twitch.tv/TheAstroPub. Come join me live as we talk about Star Citizen. We talk about Star Citizen. We do the latest news. We look at the ISCs when they're out, any kind of new updates. And we, of course, do these live monthly report readings. So you can see here, chat is here. Chat's going to say something like, this isn't live because they're jerks. But say hi, chat. And this, again, is the June 2023 monthly report. We're going to be going over the entirety of it. This is not a summary. And the reason why I keep saying this is not a summary is because I firmly believe that if you really want to be the most up-to-date you should be reading the monthly reports, the progress trackers, and any other kind of content, written content come out of official CIG channels, and compare them together, because it's the best way of fully knowing what you're doing. Now, if you can't do that, you don't have time, you've got kids, you got work, you've got other things to do, that's why I'm here. I'm going to be reading this word for word, but I'm also going to be inserting my own kind of interpretations and maybe explaining a couple things like, oh yeah, this is something they've been working on for a while, just to give you a little kind of idea. And if you follow month to month with this channel, then you'll be able to see that. If you like this idea, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe so that you're up to date when these come out. And of course, hitting the bell icon will let you know exactly when these videos come out and when I go live. Thank you again. And without any further ado, let's talk about the June 2023 monthly report for Star Citizen. All right. So, let me blow this up a little bit so we can read it a little better. There we go. AI tech. Last month, AI finalized their work on dynamic pathfinding regeneration. As mentioned in previous reports, this feature allows dynamic paths to detect when a navigation mesh is modified and check whether it's still valid or if a new path request is needed. When a new dynamic path is requested, the pathing component creates and stores navigation anchors. These anchors notify the pathing component each time the mesh changes, which then checks through navigation raycast to see if the path is still valid. If not, the last part of the path is recomputed. Basically, they showed this off on the Star Citizen Live. If there's a block in the way or some sort of hazard, an AI will then redivert away from that hazard based off of what it can see and continue to move. So it allows for more natural progression where like AIs aren't like running through fire and stuff like that. Now, there may be some AIs which have special equipment or specific tags that attach to their AI character, which will make them more willing to go through that. Say if they've got like fire retardant clothing on or something, or they're panicked or whatever. But generally speaking, the idea is that they'll be more natural kind of to path around stuff. Next, the team continued developing a feature to allow NPCs to enter and exit ship's airlock from EVA. For this, they had to consider cases when a ship or space station is moving or slightly rotating. They're currently working on a scenario for transitioning from a ship with gravity to 0G by vaulting over a ledge. That's something they've been working on for a while. The idea of having of AI being able to board ships and like leave ships. So that's it's an interesting concept there. See how that works. Basically allows for them to disable you and then board you and then take your stuff. For tools, AI tech continued improving and extending functionality to the Apollo subsumption, including adding 2 new windows for task archetypes and variable type editors. This will allow the team to better visualize and modify archetypes and variables. Archetypes are specific roles that AIs will have, like pusher, sniper. There's different archetypes that they kind of work into there. And then there's different variables that they'll add in terms of like personalities. It's all connected to the subsumption tool. If you want to know more about that, there is a lot of that talks about during the last CitizenCon. Chris and team showed off some of the AI stuff they're working for Squadron. This is the same tech. So, the other AI tool, the Usable Group Coordinator, received improvements too. This included a minor flow refactor to reduce the performance impact from bad setups to more clearly notify designers of what's wrong. I believe the Group Coordinator is everyone gets a token, and then each AI will spend a token to do a specific action. And then if they don't have tokens left, they have to take cover and do other things to wait for the tokens to regenerate. So it's kind of a way to make group encounters more dynamic, where not every single time you're going to encounter a group and say like a bunker mission, they'll do the exact same behavior every time. They may have some variance depending on what's going on. Last month, the AI tech also supported existing features for the upcoming release builds. For navigation links, they created new flow graph nodes to allow designers to disable and re-enable navigation links for a platform or object container. For example, this will enable NPCs to use moving platforms. Interesting. Animation. Last month, the animation team worked on facial animations for new character set. They also progressed with their ongoing work on boids, which is the bird and fish, kind of smaller creatures, which relate to animals flying in flocks or swarms. Art characters. In June, the character art team continued working on the Dusters and Headhunters gangs, Dusters being a Stanton gang, Headhunters being a Pyro gang, creating new outfits for the former and polishing existing items for the latter. Alongside this, the character concept art team began to explore exploration phase for new Headhunters gang member and prepared handoff sheets for additional Dusters outfits. Art ships. The Tumbril Storm is nearing the end of its LOD 0 phase, or LOD 0 phase, with some areas approaching final content. Materials were also polished, internal damage was built, and most LODs were created. The team are currently undertaking customization work and will move to UV2 projections in July. Following last month's report, the Aopoa Santokyai is awaiting its second Greybox stage gate review pass. It failed the first time around due to missing dashboard implementation plan. We have now created a dashboard and generated the bulk of the art for it. We simply need to make it past the gate and will be officially at LOD 0 phase. Ship art team. Santokyai's cockpit also received a polish pass before the team moved to the rest of the ship. Ship art then worked with the narrative on Xi'an language translations, which will appear in the ship's UI and character inner thought system. I wonder if they're going to do the characters themselves and then have them translate as you're looking at them for like inner thoughts and for like at various things. That'd be interesting. Community team celebrated Pride Month through June by bringing back the Show Us Your Colors celebration, which received a huge number of impressive entries. This year's submissions com link. Visit this year's submission com link for a wealth of community creativity. The team then supported Alien Week 2953, which starred a Banu ship Suli's human-focused advert. During the ship, what is it called? Friendly Banu Suli was the name of the Suli. During the event, players were invited to explore alien lore and spaceships and enter the alien encounter screenshot contest. The community's xenolinguists also deciphered a Banu language message containing secrets of the mysterious Tholo. First opportunity to get hold of the digital Banu Tholo was at the International Bar Citizen Weekend, where we handed them out as a code cards to every guest. We loved meeting so many of you this weekend, and we hosted the afternoon of Star Citizen near our studios in Los Angeles, Austin, Montreal, Manchester, and Frankfurt. Community team. I was there. I am back here. You can see me all the way back here in this picture, the gray and the beard, and you'll see it. June saw the continuation of the Bar Citizen World Tour, with members from Star Citizen team traveling to Asia to visit players in Shanghai and Hong Kong and Incheon in Korea. Incheon? Isn't that... No, I know where that is. Never mind. Thank you for... North Korea. No, it's South Korea. I'm a dumbass. Thank you for having us as guests. It was absolutely amazing to meet more than 19,000 of you in China and Korea. It still boggles my mind that Star Citizen has a huge community in Asia. If you're watching this from an Asian country, say South Korea, China, Japan, Indonesia, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, let me know. I always like to know if how many people actually watch my content not in not America or Britain or Australia. It's always interesting to see this, because I've had more than a few people come up to me and be like, I love your lore stuff there. So the team also supported an announcement of the ongoing planning for CitizenCon 2953, which is coming to LA, USA on October 21st and 22nd. This includes ticket details, an FAQ about the event and location, a guide to LA, and details to take part via community booth for this year's cosplay contest. Plus, in preparation for this year's Foundation Festival, community launched the tutorial contest and invited the player organizations that made the verse a better place with their teamwork to introduce themselves. Nice. Engine. In June, the core engine team finished integrating the latest changes into the main development branch. This took a significant effort, but the team managed to stabilize and roll out many major reworks made over the past few months. I gotta do this. Every time I gotta do this. So, I am not an engineer. I am not a Starfleet engineer. I cannot turn rocks into replicators. I am not an engine seer. I do not know the canticles of the Omnissiah. I am but smooth-brained me. I am just a humble bartender and teacher and lore person. I do not know a ton about the inner goings of the engine speak that happens here. I'll still read it because it's important, and as always, feel free to let me know in the comments if you know what's going on to clarify some things. I'll try to pick apart things here and there, but if I'm wrong, please let me know, because again, I don't really know a lot about how the engine functions. I've gotten better over the years, but I'm still kind of in the dark, so be careful with me on this one. Additionally, experiments were done on a more cooperative threading model to execute physics code, which should deliver general performance improvements. I wonder if that improves threading in general, because I know that's been a problem. For generic shapes, all editor side work for regular shapes was finished and is now with the artists for feedback. The next stage is editor support for multiple sub-segments to allow the team to build more complex shapes out of primitive sub-shapes. The Star Build P4K version 2 and MEM replay systems received various improvements and new features in preparation for them rolling out to other teams. Core Engine also worked with physics to provide tech support for the MISC Whole C. The physics team supported the game teams with various bug fixes, progressed with cantilever beams for the Maelstrom editor, and investigated solver improvements for driven ragdolls. Now, there was a kind of a leak earlier today or this week talking about Maelstrom being mentioned, and I think that we may be seeing the Maelstrom be mentioned here as an editor, so it may be things that are modifying things, specifically with cantilever beams. I don't know what that means, but just maybe a physics editor in general. As I saw some people bring it up as well as mentioned in the monthly report, but it doesn't really fit. In IMGUI view was then implemented to allow rapid tweaking of simulation parameters for character attached cloth so that changes become immediately visible. Regarding team structure, the Entity System Tech team transferred to the Core Engine team. While their focus will still be on everything related to server meshing, bringing the team over brings the knowledge and ownership of the Entity System team together, which should allow for more efficient communication. Engine team. That is not a good sign. I think this is a poor sign for how server meshing is going. Because if they're trying to bring server meshing team into the engine team, it means that there's some miscommunication which is going on, which means that we probably are seeing there's something going on. There's some breakdown that's happening that's not good for the server meshing. That's probably one of the first red flags that I've seen in one of these monthly reports. So keep that in mind. That's a red flag in my mind. I could be wrong though, but it seems like a red flag. Entity System Tech also integrated their recent improvements into the main development branch. They then worked on various spawn timing improvements and cost visualizations to allow for further guided loading time optimization. Finally, async entity loading was enabled in the editor for faster startup and improved efficiency. Features Arena Commander. In June, the Arena Commander feature team's focus was on polishing and bug fixing for Alpha 320. Engineering also completed a new competitive scoring and team balance systems. A small quality of life refactor was done for the Flash-based FPS loadout editor. Now, game modules automatically supply consumables to the player, allowing the team to simplify the editor to only include armor and weapons. They also continue to work on the new spawn screens being introduced in the most gameplay modes in Alpha 320, before moving onto in-game vehicle selection. Design continued polish passes across various locations, including adjusting Security Post Korea's control variant based on playtest feedback. For Tank Royale, the mode's Magda location failed its go-no-go due to underwhelming visuals and gameplay. In response, design worked on 2 replacement locations to provide greater variety and more visual interest: Daymar and Maya, Lear's second planet, where the Good Doctor map is set. Design then reworked all existing racetracks to utilize the new racing system being developed for release in a future patch. Finally, the team concluded work on 3 new experimental modes that featured new flight system: Master Modes, Free Flight, Duel, and Endless Vandal Swarm. So, they were working on the experimental modes for Master Modes. Done, said in the monthly reports. Features, characters, and weapons. In June, the features team began extending item wear to weaponry. This means that the weapon is used, as a weapon is used, ages, or is kept in poor condition, it will become increasingly worn. For example, if a weapon is used while dirty, it will accumulate wear faster. As a weapon becomes worn, it will become less reliable and may overheat faster and start misfiring. This can cause minor or major jamming, requiring the user to spend time fixing the malfunction. The team also looked into minor rework of the inventory screen. The current inventory screen is great for managing loadout and inventory storage, but we have been looking at options for speeding up looting while in combat. Features team. As a part of this, the team experimented with a new UI that remains in first-person view, allowing players to assess combat-related items and then quickly loot or exchange medpeds, ammunition, grenades, and weapons. Speeding that up. So we've got wear and tear, which is something they've been adding a lot to. So they're adding that to guns now, which is an interesting addition. That's a major addition. It's going to be changing things, but also trying to speed up looting, which is interesting. Features, gameplay. Following the release of Alpha 319.1, the gameplay features team began focusing on upcoming patches. This included work on the vehicle tractor beams, with relevant vehicles being set up to support that feature. For example, the upcoming SRV was tested internally and towed its first ships. There was a question that I had seen earlier about the Argo MPU or the Argo SRV not being ready. It's already working. So the Argo SRV is up and working and towing its first ships. Very good. Very good. That means that while we may not see the tractor beams in 320, we should probably see it before the end of the year if there's like a 321 or a 40. The resource network also progressed well, with the team pleased with its current state. They then moved on to supporting resource network relevant features, including engineering and life support. All right, so they're done with the resource network stuff. It looks like they're working on engineering and life support stuff. Interesting. Features, mission. Last month, the mission features were directed to cargo and pyro-based missions. They're currently developing cargo hauling and ship piracy missions that leverage the new cargo grid and freight elevator features. The development of a new cargo and escort-focused dynamic event began. Blockade Runner will replace Ninetales Lockdown, keeping its strengths and removing its weaknesses by using new features and proven designs. Thank God. I have to say, and I may not be the only one, I really want to know this as well, but the Ninetales Lockdown was always the weakest of the events. It was just awful in comparison to everything else. And that's with modern Xenothreat destroying servers. Like, at least Xenothreat is fun while it's destroying servers. Ninetales Lockdown is just boring and such a slog. So, work was completed on the ship cover-up mission suite. This entails scraping the hull of a criminal ship to make it unidentifiable to approaching security forces. The team also tasked with turning the new player experience into a modular mission that can be run in any location with the correct setup. For combat missions, most quantum travel capable ships were added to the pool that missions can spawn from. However, some that don't make the narrative sense weren't added. For example, criminals won't use Drake Cutlass Blue as part of this work. Won't use Drake Cutlass Blue. As part of this work, the game's ships were divided into difficulty bands derived from data mentioned in last month's report, which was gathered from pitting every ship against each other 1,000 times. A technical design document was completed for the system that governs player reputations with orgs. This relates to things that players can do outside of missions, such as killing org members or rival players. Just a technical design document, so it's not even in the prototype stages yet, which is, again, not great. Gameplay features also made improvements to the Defend Korea mission, including splitting trespasser tracking between the station's interior and exterior to help players better understand where to search. We're also prototyping a means to take the turrets temporarily offline and to do a momentary ping on intruders, which may or may not be used. Mission features team. Work continued on the data heist, retrieve consignment, and ship escort missions, along with the ship trespass feature. Finally, mission features worked with the actor features team to get ledge grab feature enabled in the PU, seeing it through the QA and go-no-go process. This feature allows players to grab onto ledges while in midair, significantly improving climbing and allowing players to reach ship entrances that were previously out of reach. They also made a pass on the prison escape mission alongside the USPU team to ensure the new feature could be used to its fullest. That was something they showed off at CitizenCon of the new, people called it the parkour citizen, thing where you're mirrors citizen edge, whatever, where you're able to kind of scramble over things and, grab things mid jump and such. So it's good that that's finally being added to the PU. So that may take 3 to 6 months now. So probably have more of an update on August or September when it comes to that. Graphics, VFX programming, and Planet Tech. June saw the Planet Tech team wrapping up their latest tools and working on the new water system. Water ripples can now be simulated across region borders, and further reworks to render code integrations with planetary atmospheric passes made the process smoother. Quantum obstacles for generic shapes were also physicalized and passed to the engine team for integration. That's quantum obstacles, I guess, for stopping you from coming out of quantum. Graphics team spent part of the month fixing bugs, improving the render thread, and developing upcoming temporal upscaling system. For Global Illumination and ray tracing prototype, Global Illumination, a ray tracing prototype, is now in progress, and work began on screen space probes. Screen space shadows are now more constant, and canvas decal streams issue were resolved. Gen 12 and Vulkan also received various bug fixes that impacted rendering and streaming performance. The GPU resource lifetime was restructured, and WAW hazards for render graph deferred execution are handled more efficiently too. The first iteration of entity spawning based on mesh setup and CGAs was submitted, which is required for Maelstrom. Again, that tool. I'm sure we'll hear more about the Maelstrom tool in the upcoming CitizenCon. That seems like a CitizenCon mention. Probably a new physics engine that they're working on. This would be my guess, but because it seemed to be based specifically on physics. I don't know. Alongside the UI, tech, and Squadron 42 teams, graphics improved the performance and visual quality of the area map. The interior and FPS minimaps now use the render layer features, which can now be applied to CGA joints, skin, and CGF attachments. Incorrect UI edge cases were also resolved and now scale correctly with scene exposure. So we're seeing visual quality of the area map and the interior FPS minimaps, so we're getting a little bit better with that. The VFX team enabled DataForge to support particle library groups in preparation for the upcoming changes to weapon effects setups. A crash impacting fire-related child effects was fixed, and an entity-wide burn state can now be applied that uses dirt parameters and object temperature to determine damage and glow. Glow uses a specific shader from a permanent effects for game-wide consistency. Lighting was also improved. For example, lighting cascades can be timed with new controller, and ship shields now trigger when struck by lightning. Wait, I'm going to go that again. Lightning was also improved? For example, lightning cascades can be timed with a new controller, and ship shields now trigger when struck by lightning. I mean, I know there was lightning effects for the coil for Squadron 42. Maybe I'm crazy, but does that mean they're trying to make thunderstorms in-game? Who knows? Chat's telling me that it's just a Squadron 42 copy pasta. It's important to note that a lot of the engine stuff that we see in Star Citizen monthly reports is the same as it is in Squadron 42. And the reason why that's important to note is because effectively those two games are the same at their base core. They just have different elements, but almost everything that's in Squadron 42 is in Star Citizen and vice versa. There's just some slight differences because Squadron 42 is a single-player game. So that's another example of kind of how they're connected. In-game branding Montreal. Last month, branding worked closely with EU Locations 2 on navigational signage for New Babbage, then began building various artwork assets for an upcoming event. They also progressed with artwork for Pyro, including the final touch-ups on navigational signage for Ruin Station. The branding team began to work on underground facilities too, which involved creating different mock-ups for commercial lobbies. Interactables. Throughout June, the Interactables team explored new ideas for props that haven't been seen in the verse before. They also created new flair items for subscribers, which are the cups and stuff. Lighting. The lighting team continued their work on Outpost for the Pyro system, helping to sell the wilderness feel. They also worked on several initiatives for Pyro alongside the Locations team. Live Tools Montreal. In Montreal, the Live Tool team prepared the analytics phase of the usability research done last month. When complete, the team will establish an action plan that will determine their next priorities in improving the usability of the HEX Network's Operations Center. This month also marked a great milestone, with the team shipping one of the key features that will provide more support to persistent entity streaming technology. This new versatile tool will allow users to have an overview of different entities in the game. Live Tools team. This seems to be the team that was also tackling server meshing and such, I believe. So they were building a lot of stuff for to improve PES to make it not bad, and the reason why 3.19.1 is more playable now. So this is the looks like an updated version, maybe a LOD 0 or like an updated gray box pass of what we saw at CitizenCon last year for the underground facilities, because this looks like one of those underground facilities lobbies. Locations EU. Last month, the EU Locations team progressed with closing out rooms for Rundown Station. Maybe Ruin Station? The station has had some great TLC, and we hope players will enjoy exploring these new areas. Maybe just Rundown Stations, huh? EU Locations team. They also completed tasks for an upcoming event before the beginning various new projects. The Sandbox team closed out Pyro's Outpost and moved on to planetary distribution work. Developments of the underground facilities continued too, with the team exploring new areas and further expanding these already considerable locations. The Organics team continued cloud development for planets and worked on new and intriguing flora that players will find in Pyro. All right. Narrative. June saw the narrative team further developing and populating Pyro. A lawless system, it presents a lot of interesting opportunities for the team to explore how existing game systems may change and take on new nuance. The team worked on further outlining mission content and providers, refining unique food options that will be available at some of the remote space stations, and detailing signage and graffiti that will be placed around various locations. Narrative also continued their final push towards the release of Alpha 3.20. This included naming and writing descriptions for numerous assets, reviewing new text for gameplay features, and further refining new mission content. Additionally, they made deeper dives into alien species lore as xenolinguistic development continued. Tavaran language guide. That's what they mean. This involved listening to new audio samples and debating which style speech best fit the culture and lore. Yeah, it's the Tavaran language guide. It's the only one we haven't had yet. Last month, we also saw numerous narrative content releases, including Whitley's Guide to Tumbril Cyclone, a special message in honor of Alien Week from Najisi Religion Suli, an episode of Star Citizen Live featuring the narrative team, and another batch of Galactopedia entries. I'm sorry, this is the actual, not the tools team, this is the team that's actually working on server meshing stuff. Online Services Montreal. In June, the online services team completed a major refactor of the inventory system. These changes won't be visible to players, but will touch every inventory type in the game, with the goal being to address some long-standing bugs to improve PES performance and stability. The team also worked on server and engine side integration for return of private lobbies in Arena Commander. Lastly, online services fixed various bugs related to long-term persistence and login issues. Research and development. In June, work on atmospheric and volumetric cloud rendering continued. Transmittance profiles and their filter chains were optimizing and improved to reduce noise and artifacts in Raymarch's results. Further research went into temporal upsampling of those results to produce a stable and detailed full resolution frame that can then be compensated with into a scene. Systematic services and tools. The Systematic Services and Tools team began planning the required service refactor to support of server meshing. They also began code cleanup and working through the tech debt for diffusion architecture and general instance manager. Additionally, the team supported the USPU with bug fixing and integration towards the whole C and cargo feature release. So this is the team. I think this is also specifically dealing with server meshing, but this is the team that does Quantum. The Systematic Services and Tools is the team that does Quantum, the dynamic economy, the Tony Z's team. Tech art and animation. June saw tech animation integrate their long-awaiting changes to the DNA system. This enables new head assets and provides a pipeline that will open new ways to author and customize new game content. The team then began new initiatives while they wait for further head art. This include updating Maya pipeline codebase from Python 2.7 to 3.7 and thoroughly testing it. This was released to the user base in June, with the team currently working through the final bugs. And lastly, VFX. The VFX team increased support for several locations across Pyro, including Ruin Station's interior and exterior, and the various derelict settlements and outposts. Due to the modular nature of these locations, time was taken to ensure the artists understood which file level to add effects to. For example, for a food stall, they need to add hot steam effects directly to the stall asset rather than its location. The team also supported several new platforms on Orison, including falling and rustling leaves, water fountains, and more. Several ships progressed through June, too. All right. Well, there's some good news and bad news. It looks like there's a lot of stuff that's supporting cargo and the whole sea. It looks like 320 may be coming out sooner than we think, especially as it's currently in testing. But the bad news is it seems like server meshing is taking a bit of a tumble. They probably won't out and out say it, but there is definitely some communication issues between the engine team and the server meshing team. So they're trying to bring them together to kind of reduce the lag time or other issues, which doesn't bode well for actual server meshing coming out this year. On the plus side, Boyd's is being worked on. Narrative is doing a ton of stuff for 320, and the Tavaran language guide is coming out. Lightning possibly happening. And new flora for Pyro. The underground facilities, UGF, seem to be getting a big glow up. Progressing through, we see a lot of stuff being completed for the resource system, which includes things for like engineering and life support. Lots of graphics and VFX stuff being done, further work on Vulcan and Gen 12. Lots of mission stuff, a lot of new mission stuff, which is something I had been seeing for a while now. which I was saying for a while now that this is year of missions and Arena Commander, and a lot of stuff for Arena Commander, especially, and my favorite news, freaking Ninetales Lockdown is dead. It's gone. They're completely redoing it. Thank you, CIG, for listening to us, and when we say it was the most boring event that you've ever made. No offense to the people who worked on it. It's just, it was a rough draft at best. Going through some of the other stuff. Weapon jamming. That's a huge aspect to it. And new looting mechanics, it looks like they're focusing on. As well as mentions of master modes being tested for Arena Commander. And going through the last little bits here. Sentuk Yai and the Temporal Storm going through some stuff. More mentions of the Dusters and Headhunters. And AI tech for boarding and leaving ships. So, some good news and some bad news. And I want to hear your thoughts down below as to overall your thoughts. Do you think these are overall good things? Do you think these are bad things? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to catch this live, we do these on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Twitch.tv/TheAstroPub. I'd love for you to come over. As always, remember, hit that like button, subscribe for more content. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.